Well, my background is exploration. I've been an exploration geologist my entire career. I started companies like NOVAGOLD. It's close to a $4 billion market cap. We developed the Donlin Creek project and brought in our joint venture partner Barrick on that on a 50-50. We did a similar thing with Trilogy, which we started about 10 years ago, developing the Ambler Mining District and bringing in South 32, an Australian diversified company there to advance the Arctic and Bornite projects. So we've done this before. I like the idea of developing resources and advancing them to pre-feasibility level of stage, and then bringing in the major company to go the distance. So it's a model that's worked for us. We've had a lot of shareholder value with that approach over the years and over a variety of companies. Yeah, we've got some interesting sort of usual suspect shareholders. John Hathaway with Tocqueville became a shareholder. Tocqueville, of course, was bought out by Sprott, so that's a big group that's involved with the company and has been for a bit of time here. Chris Mancini over at Gabelli Fund is another sort of more typical, if you will, gold investor. They certainly see the value here with that we've created, especially with this partnership with Kinross, where we can see generating cash flows of in excess of $10 per share in a very low risk approach to developing our project using the Fort Knox mill and using Kinross's expertise. So it's a good situation for us, and I think both those shareholders recognize that. Yeah, so we are planning to upgrade our listing to the New York Stock Exchange American Exchange, and that process is ongoing. We were hoping to look at doing that in late this year, but I think with the COVID and everything's just kind of moving slower, I think we can look forward to doing that in Q1 of 2021. I think we meet all the criteria, so we'll be looking forward to planning for an uplisting from the OTC up to the New York Stock Exchange American Exchange in Q1 of 2021. Yeah, so Kinross is the manager and operator of the Peak Gold joint venture, and I think that's a great thing because it's their mill and their tailings facility that we're processing, that we'll be processing our ore at. It really leaves, frankly, very little for us to do. We'll be involved at the joint venture committee level in coming up with a plan and approving budgets. We've approved a $3.9 million budget for the last quarter of 2020. We'll meet again in December to approve next year's budget, but our guidance is is around 17 million for that budget on a 100% basis. So our share will be a little over 5 million. This work will be directed mostly at metallurgy, geotechnical, and preparing the permitting for the project. Yeah, the facility, the Fort Knox facility, I mean, the whole reason why we did this agreement with Kinross is because of the excess capacity of the Fort Knox mill and tailings facility. And obviously, it's only being utilized a little, right around half of the capacity of the mill. So on average, that's about 10 million tons per year. Our 1 million tons per year coming from the Peak Gold deposit, will only incrementally increase that. But the grade of the Fort Knox ore is around 0.6 grams per ton, whereas the ore that we'll deliver to the Fort Knox mill will be about 6 grams per ton, so about 10 times the grade. So this really is it's a great thing for the Fort Knox mill. It'll certainly adds mine life and expectations of higher gold production out of the Fort Knox facility. And if you look at Kinross's corporate deck, you can see that this plays a major role in longevity of the Fort Knox operations. Yeah, certainly Alaska weather here can be tough in the wintertime. It was started out 20 below this morning, and it's warmed up to a brisk 10 below. Interestingly enough, snowfall and precipitation are what are the most difficult for mining operations. It's not cold weather. The equipment actually operates better in the cold weather in terms of its fuel consumption. because the lower temperatures have more oxygen. So fuel efficiency is actually improved. Obviously, you got to keep people warm and safe. That's the main directive in terms of any mining operation, and whether it's cold weather or any other aspect of safety, that's the most important thing for anything that has to do with mining. Yeah, right now we have a $3.9 million program that we approved for the last quarter of 2020. Just right after we signed the agreement with Kinross, we immediately approved that budget. That program's being undertaken right now with 2 drill rigs on site. We have a little bit of snow on the ground, but not a huge amount, and we're basically all set up for winter operations, so no issues there. We'll follow that up with a $17 million program. It's not been approved yet, technically or officially, but that's what we anticipate the 2021 budget to be on a 100% basis. So our share will be a little over $5 million. Again, directed mostly at metallurgy, geotechnical, hydrology work in preparation for a feasibility study for 2022 and permitting starting in 2022. So a lot of work yet to do, but we've got a good partner, and we're pretty well set up to execute the plan. The Tetlin tribe, we've had a strong working relationship with. We at Contango, at least, have had a strong working relationship for the last 10 years, and so we've tested the agreement on a number of fronts, and we've always found solutions where, like in any agreement, you don't know all, you can't anticipate all outcomes, and so we've been able to work together to overcome shortcomings of the original agreement, and have a good working relationship. And I'm very confident that with Kinross coming into the picture, they'll particularly focus, as we have, on jobs and job training for the Tetliners, and it's a very important aspect of this project from our side, and I think Kinross will view it very much the same way. Yeah, certainly this year was a complicated year to try and execute a program with COVID-19. We proactively took the position not to have an exploration program this summer, and so that we were not interact with the village. Of course, in Alaska Native communities have been devastated in the past by previous pandemics. So there's certainly a high level of concern about that. So we decided not to have an exploration program in the summer, and until we were able to put together a solid plan that we were comfortable, we're not going to introduce any chance of bringing the virus into the village and the local community. Now that we've done that, we are executing a program as in the last quarter of 2020 here. It's a $3.9 million program where we've got 2 drill rigs working on site, and we're confident that we're executing that program in the appropriate manner. Well, certainly permitting a project in the United States is there's always risks around that, around permitting. On a relative basis, I think our project is on the simpler end of the permitting scale. We're not building a mill. We're not building a tailings facility, so we drastically reduced our environmental footprint by eliminating those two elements. In particular, the tailings facility they're always controversial. There's always water quality issues associated with those, and by not building that, we've certainly reduced our risk. The deposit itself is located on top of a hill, so we don't have any inflowing water, that's another positive. We'll have to have a stormwater prevention plan, and we'll want to dewater the pit, and we'll have to place that water back into the groundwater. So there'll be permitting around that as well. But overall, I think this is a relatively easy project to permit. We're on private lands owned by the Tetlin tribe. Obviously, they're very supportive of the project and have been since we've been doing exploration out here. So I think although there are always risks associated with environmental permitting, again, I think we're in a very good position by just permitting a mine and not having a very small footprint. Well, I'm an exploration geologist, and one of the things that excites me most is the exploration upside of this project. having an average grade of 4 grams over 1.3 million ounces is a great starting point for any mine, particularly when it's connected to infrastructure like we are at Peak. We have explored only a very small fraction of the 675,000 acres of the Tetlin lease, and then the Tetlin lease is part of the joint venture with Kinross. We have 90+% of the Tetlin lease to really explore in any level of detail. And then beyond that, we have our 100% owned state mining claims north and northwest of the Tetlin lease. And we've got a number of very high quality targets already identified, a lot of work done they're basically drill ready on 3 or 4 targets. And so I'm very excited about the exploration potential and the exploration upside of Contango. So yeah, Contango has $35 million. We expect over the next 2 years to get to a construction decision that will spend probably on the average maybe $5 to $6 million a year on the Peak Gold joint venture. So that's a total of say $12 million looking to the upside. And at that point, we would look to when it's time to construct this project, we'd probably look to a debt financing facility or a convertible note to finance the balance. Now, keep in mind that if we spend $17 million a year on a 100% basis, that's deducted from the $110 million of capital. So, because that's all towards feasibility and permitting, which are of course all deductible from a project capital. So we're feeling we're in very good shape from a financing standpoint, and we can get all the way through to production with cash on hand and by putting a debt facility in place, say 2-3 years from now. Yeah, we're exploring right now, carrying out a $3.9 million program. It's infill, it's metallurgy and geotech. So we'll have some results from that to share with everyone, probably early next year. And then we'll be executing our in December. We'll approve and execute our 2021 program and plan, which we estimate will be about $17 million. Additional drilling work, some additional infill, metallurgy, geotech, etc. And as results for that program come along, we'll be announcing that to the public. In addition, next summer we'll start exploring our own 100% owned lands, and I'm looking forward to sharing results of that probably next fall on drilling at Triple Z and on our Hona, Eagle, and Dome Creek project. So it should be a very exciting news flow for next year from an exploration standpoint and from an advancing the Peak Gold joint venture as well. Yeah, one of the huge advantages that we have with our Peak Gold project is that it is just off the Alaska Highway. So we're literally about 15 miles off of the Alaska Highway. We have so we don't have a road to build or to permit. We have to improve the road and upgrade it so that we can haul ore from the Peak site down to the highway and then up to the Fort Knox mill. But that's a huge advantage over a lot of projects in the state that have to or they're located in remote areas and have to either build 300-mile pipelines or 200-mile roads. So a very easy execution plan for us, improving the road, mining on site, crushing on site, loading the crushed ore into trucks. These are highway trucks, not mine trucks, but highway trucks that then haul the ore up to the Fort Knox mill, dump it on the stockpile, and then feed it into the Fort Knox mill. So incredibly easy execution plan. Well, one of the other advantages that we have at Peak Gold is grade, and as they say in our business, grade is king. We have 1.3 million ounces of gold outlined, measured in indicated category, so it's well drilled, well defined, and it averages around 4 grams per ton. So that's high grade for an open pit in anybody's book, and it's we've only explored a small percentage of a 5-kilometer long trend along the Peak and North Peak deposit lines, and then there's several other major target anomaly trends over on the Discovery and on the Saddle. that we have only done a very little bit of exploration work on. So a lot of exploration upside yet to be found along trend and along these structural corridors that we've already identified the 1 million ounces of resource. Alaska is a great place to work. Of course, I grew up here, and I know the state very well. But we are the second largest gold producing state in the United States. Rule of law, resources is the backbone of the economy up here. So we have a very well executed permitting environment, both at the state and the federal level. The Corps of Engineers is great to work with. We've done a lot of work with them over the years on different projects, from Donlin to Trilogy, and the current project. The 404 permit is the only federal permit that we'll need to develop our Peak Gold deposit. So I think Alaska is a great place to work, and I think we're in a great position because we only need one federal permit, and by developing a very just a small mine, relatively small mine, and not building a tailings facility and not permitting a tailings facility or a mill, is certainly makes the execution a lot easier. Yeah, the Peak Gold deposit is certainly mostly gold. There is a nice little silver credit as well, but the region is known to have a lot of gold, silver, and copper, and all three of those metals are particularly associated with porphyry style deposits. The Peak Gold deposit is a skarn deposit, so it's mostly gold and silver. But what generated that deposit is most likely a porphyry-related system, and we've yet to find it. We're still exploring for it. We'll continue that effort. One of our targets nearby is called the Triple Z. That's a project that we own 100% of, and it is a porphyry system. We've established that based on drilling and the geophysical characteristics. So we certainly see the potential for all three metals, gold, silver, and copper, and we'll continue to explore the properties for all three metals.